The cold wind cut through the bustling streets of New York City as pedestrians hurried past, wrapped in their coats and scarves, eager to escape the bitter chill. The sidewalks were alive with the energy of the city, horns honking, neon signs flickering, hurried conversations filling the air. Amidst the endless movement, a man sat slumped against the corner of a high-end restaurant, his worn-out military jacket barely enough to shield him from the cold. His name was James Carter, a former Marine veteran who had once served his country with pride. Now, he was just another forgotten soul, blending into the background like the countless other homeless individuals in the city. His face was rough with an unshaven beard, his hands cracked from the cold. A small cardboard sign lay beside him, reading, U.S. veteran just trying to survive. God bless. Most people walked by without a second glance. Some even looked away intentionally, pretending not to notice. A few tossed coins into the empty coffee cup beside him, their expressions a mix of guilt and discomfort. James was used to it. He had stopped expecting kindness a long time ago. Tonight was different, though. Tonight, the city was more alive than usual because Donald Trump was in town. The former president had just left an exclusive business gala at one of the most luxurious hotels in the city, his motorcade lined up outside. Security was tight. Reporters were stationed everywhere, and a group of curious onlookers had gathered near the exit, hoping to catch a glimpse of him. James didn't care about politics. He had long stopped believing in the promises of leaders. To him, they were all the same, rich men in suits who didn't understand what it meant to struggle. The black SUVs revved their engines, preparing for departure. Trump, dressed in a tailored Navy suit and signature red tie, stepped out of the building, flanked by his security team. Flashbulbs exploded as photographers tried to capture the moment. The cameras focused on him, waiting for his next move. That's when he saw James. For a moment, Trump paused. His usual confident stride slowed as his eyes landed on the veteran sitting against a cold concrete wall. Something about the man caught his attention, not just his appearance, but the look in his eyes. The crowd was watching, his security detail tense, waiting for him to keep moving. But he didn't. Instead, he walked toward James. The murmurs grew louder. The cameras zoomed in. No one expected this. James looked up, momentarily stunned. Of all the people in the city, he never thought Donald Trump would stop in front of him. Trump crouched down slightly, meeting James at eye level. His expression wasn't one of pity. It was something else. Recognition. Understanding. "What's your name?" Trump asked, his voice lower than the usual commanding tone he used in speeches. James hesitated before answering. James Carter. Trump nodded. Marine? James swallowed hard, nodding. Yes, sir. Served in Afghanistan. Came back. Things didn't go as planned. He motioned toward his surroundings with a half-hearted smile. Ended up here. Trump studied him for a moment, then reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a thick envelope. He handed it to James, who looked at it in confusion. Take it, Trump said. That's not a handout. That's a start. James hesitated before slowly opening the envelope. His hands trembled as he saw what was inside. $10,000 in cash. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The reporters were speechless. The cameras zoomed in, capturing every second. James looked back up, his eyes wide. I don't understand. Trump stood up, adjusting his coat. You served this country. It's time someone served you. But he wasn't done yet. He turned to one of his aides. Get this man a hotel room tonight. And tomorrow, I want him cleaned up, dressed properly, and taken to one of my properties. He has a job there if he wants it. The whispers in the crowd turned into applause. Even those who had come expecting to criticize him now stood in stunned admiration. James sat there, gripping the envelope, his throat tightening. He had been ignored for years, forgotten. And now, in the span of a few minutes, his life had completely changed. Trump patted him on the shoulder. You're not invisible, James. And with that, He turned back toward his motorcade. As he stepped into the SUV, he glanced at the reporters, who were still scrambling to process what had just happened. "Make sure you write about that," he said with a smirk before closing the door. James sat there, still unable to process everything. His fingers clenched the envelope as he blinked back tears. For the first time in years, he felt seen, heard, valued. The SUVs pulled away, but the impact of what had just happened would stay with him forever. He looked down at the money, then back up at the sky. Maybe, just maybe, life had given him a second chance. James sat on the edge of a hotel bed, still gripping the envelope as if it might vanish at any moment. The warm glow of the bedside lamp contrasted with the harsh cold he had endured just hours ago. He ran a hand through his unkempt hair, his mind racing. Everything had changed so fast. A few hours ago, he had been invisible, just another forgotten veteran among thousands. Now, he was sitting in a luxury suite, paid for by Donald Trump himself. The hot shower had washed away the grime of years on the streets, and the fresh set of clothes, a crisp white dress shirt and tailored trousers, felt unfamiliar against his skin. There was a knock at the door. James hesitated before opening it. A sharply dressed man in a black suit stood outside. "Mr. Carter, my name is Anthony. Mr. Trump has arranged a meeting for you at one of his properties tomorrow morning. I'll be escorting you there." James nodded, still in disbelief. "So this is real, huh?" Anthony smiled. "Very real, sir. Get some rest. You have a big day ahead of you." The door closed, leaving James alone with his thoughts. He sat back on the bed, staring at the ceiling. For years, he had been overlooked, dismissed as another statistic. But tonight, for the first time, someone had seen him. Morning arrived with the unfamiliar feeling of comfort. James woke to the sound of his own heartbeat, steady and strong. He dressed in the clothes provided for him, the fit surprisingly perfect, and followed Anthony downstairs, where a black luxury car waited. The ride was silent except for the sound of the city waking up. Skyscrapers stretched into the sky, bathed in the golden hues of morning sunlight. James watched the people on the sidewalks, rushing to work, sipping coffee, scrolling through their phones, completely unaware that one of their own had just been given a second chance. They pulled up to a Trump-owned business tower, its glass windows reflecting the morning light. James swallowed hard. He had spent years watching people walk into buildings like this while he begged for scraps on the streets. Now, he was about to walk through those doors himself. Inside, everything gleamed. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and the quiet hum of important business dealings created an atmosphere of power. James stood stiffly in the lobby, feeling out of place. Then, a familiar voice broke through his thoughts. "Well, you clean up nice." James turned to see Donald Trump himself walking toward him, dressed in a perfectly tailored navy suit. James straightened up. "Sir." Trump motioned toward an office. "Let's talk." The room they entered was massive, lined with gold accents and towering bookshelves. Trump sat at the desk, motioning for James to take a seat across from him. "So," Trump started, leaning back in his chair, "I meant what I said last night. You have a job here, if you want it." James hesitated. "Sir, I don't have a resume. I don't have experience working in a place like this. I don't even know where to start." Trump smirked. "Good, because experience isn't the first thing I look for. I look for character. You served your country. That tells me everything I need to know." James swallowed hard. He had spent years trying to prove he was more than just a homeless veteran. And now, someone was giving him the opportunity to do just that. Trump continued. "There's a security position available. It's not glamorous, but it's stable, respectable work with a real paycheck. If you're willing to show up and work hard, you'll move up, but the choice is yours." James exhaled, nodding slowly. "I'll take it." Trump extended his hand. "Good. Then welcome aboard." James grasped his hand, feeling the weight of a new beginning settle over him. As he left the office, walking with purpose for the first time in years, he realized something. He had spent so long believing the world had forgotten him. But now he knew. All it took was one act of kindness to change everything. James stood outside the Trump Tower, the morning sun casting long shadows on the pavement. He took a deep breath, inhaling the crisp city air, feeling something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. For years, he had been trapped in a cycle of despair, convinced that no one cared, that no one saw him. But in just 24 hours, his life had changed. A job, a roof over his head, a reason to keep going. As he entered the building for his first official day as a security officer, he could feel the eyes of the staff on him. Some curious, others doubtful. He didn't blame them. Just yesterday, he had been a homeless man on the streets. Now, he was here, wearing a neatly pressed uniform, a badge clipped to his chest, standing tall. The first few hours were nerve-wracking. Everything felt new. The polished hallways, the high-tech security system, the structured routine. He met the other security team members, some of whom looked at him with skepticism. But James didn't care. He was here to prove himself. Midway through his shift, as he stood at his assigned post near the main lobby, a familiar voice echoed through the hall. "Well, look at you, a real working man now." James turned to see Donald Trump, flanked by his aides, striding toward him. James straightened. "Sir." Trump smirked. "How's the first day?" James nodded. "Good, sir. A lot to learn, but I'll get there." Trump clapped him on the shoulder. "That's the attitude. Work hard. Keep your head up, and you'll move up." One of Trump's aides leaned in, whispering something in his ear. Trump nodded, then looked back at James. "I have a meeting to get to, but I just want to check in." James nodded, unable to hide the gratitude in his expression. "Thank you, sir, for everything." Trump waved it off. "Just don't waste it." And with that, he was gone, disappearing into the elevator. James stood there, processing what had just happened. He wasn't used to this. People believing in him, people expecting something from him. And for the first time in years, he wanted to live up to that expectation. Months passed. James never missed a single shift. He worked overtime when needed, stayed late when asked. He learned fast, earning the respect of his colleagues, even the ones who had doubted him in the beginning. One evening, as he was preparing to leave, a fellow security officer approached him. "You got a minute?" James nodded, and the man handed him a letter. James frowned, unfolding it. His eyes scanned the contents, and his breath hitched. It was an offer letter, a promotion, head of security. His hands trembled slightly as he read the details. It came with a higher salary, benefits, more responsibility. He looked up at the officer. Disbelief etched on his face. "Is this real?" The man chuckled. "You earned it." James exhaled, overwhelmed. He had come from nothing. Just a year ago, he had been sleeping on the frozen sidewalks, unseen and forgotten. Now, he was standing in the same building where he had once been invisible, holding a letter that proved he had finally made it. As he walked out of the building that night, he looked up at the sky, the city lights shimmering around him. Donald Trump's words echoed in his mind. "You're not invisible, James." And now he knew. He never had been. He had just needed someone to remind him. Overview or do. Ye Kahani James Carter, ek homeless veteran Ki Hai, Joe New York Ki Sakon Park User Basar Car, Raha Hoda Hai. Log Use Ignore Cardi Hain. Koi Uski Taraf Dek to be Nahi. Jabtak Donald Trump ek business event Essie, Nikalte Wakt Use Nahi Dek Lida. Trump being a Jishi hesitation ka Uski Pas Jada Hai, Usi Pukta Hai ku account Hai, or Kai's Yahan Tak Pancha. Jab James Batata Hai ku ek Afghanistan War veteran Hai, Josen Dagi ka Mushkil Halak ku Waja Essie Sabkuch ko Chuka Hai. Trump Usko Surf Paisai Nahi Dita. Baki ek Ne Jiwan Kam Mokabi Dita Hai. Trump James KO $10,000 Dita Hai. Lekin Surfia Nahi. Wa Uski Liek hotel room arrange Karta Hai. or for execurity job ka offer dita high apnea at business property par. James Paley dafa apnes and dagi koek naangle esi dekta high. Magar uski andar shak hoda high. Kiowa's name mok ka hactor high. Lekin jab with job par jada high. Wapori lagan esi calm karda high. Over time lida high. Gshibi opportunity ko miss nai karda. Peli log use shak ki nazar esi dektain. Lekin dear wa apni menet or honesty esi saka barosa jeet lida high. Kahani ka climax tab at a high jab James koek promotion letter milda high. A wasurfek AM security officer nai. Balki had a security band jada high. With JIS building Kubahar Peli Buka or Besahar Batha Hodada. AAJ USI building Ka Ekmahim Hisaban Chuka High. Kahani Ka Moria High Kakabi Kabis and Dagi Surf Ekmoka Mani High. Or Agar Koi Insan Dusser Insan Ki Madad Care Bina Jishi Bias Ku. To a Uski Puri Denaya Betel Sakta High. Donald Trump Kayak Unexpected Act of Kindness James Keys and Dagi Keo Hamesha Kulia Betel Dita High. Or Denaya Keo Yadai Kata High. Kachoti Choti Madabi Jishi Ki Takdir Leak Sakti High.